God bless West Virginia and all the hillbillies hooked on pills. There's a new generation running wild through the hollows and the hills. Folk done gone crazy, cooking methamphetamines. They started cooking for a habit, but now there's money for the rent and things. Almost heaven. Well, it's West Virginia. Oh, but the devil's done moved on in. Hell's done broke loose all through the mountains. Times are changing. They ain't never coming back again. Welcome, comrades and friends. I was banned from going live again on Facebook. So I went live. I'm going live via the. Shit. So I went live via my Anti-imperialist America page through an alternative account. Looks like I'm not getting followed. That song right there was an underground country song by Ziggy Pockets. That shit was I actually tried to look up. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Spotify, but you try to get the lyrics and you can't find the lyrics nowhere. I actually had to transpose the lyrics. I guess his accent's kind of harsh, and nobody could really translate it right. It's kind of like Sturgill Simpson, who in his music in the lyric music video online, it said "die for some war" when it was actually "die for some oil." If you read the liner notes that he put out, a lot of these, these more authentic country artists, it's unless you really got like an ear for that specific very regional or specific dialect of them, it's almost hard to understand them. I know it took me a minute to be able to truly understand what Sturgill was saying, and he's from Kentucky. I've been raised and coming up from North Carolina. I'm gonna let me get some folks hammered in here and coming. Let me get folks coming in here. Let me share this on my personal page. Get in the comments. Let me give you a shout out. Fist from Joss Swede. Thanks for being with me. Give me a second to get things straight over here. I don't want any dead air time. Fuck it. I mean, I got tons of these shows. Jack Rabbit. Hey, what's up, man? What's up, Jack Rabbit? It looks like I am live on here at least. Fuck it. I mean, I got tons of these shows. Jack Rabbit. Hey, what's up, man? I'm going to put a post up on here. I think that should do it. No, they didn't shoot. I'm having trouble sharing my stuff the way they got this thing coming up. All right, that should have it. Anyways, how y'all doing? I sang a song, "God Bless," represented by Ziggy Pockets, and I'll sing it again. Why not? I find like I got 3 people with me. I'm gonna sing this again. Let's get into this. God bless West Virginia and all the hillbillies hooked on pills. There's a new generation running wild through the hollows and the hills. Folk done gone crazy, cooking methamphetamines. Well, they started cooking for a heaven. Now there's money for the rent and things. Almost heaven. Well, it's West Virginia. Oh, but the devil's done moved on in. Hell done broke loose all through them mountains. Times are changing. They ain't never coming back again. There's a lot going on in that song. There's a lot going on in that song. It's very underground. I had to transpose the lyrics because nobody had the lyrics. I think that dude plays up in North Carolina. He plays up some barbecue joint all summer. I don't even know what the hell he did. He probably went dormant on the damn COVID. I don't know what the hell he's doing now. He does some of that hip-hop stuff, but it's just really underground. And he's basically describing the phenomenon I've been talking about for a while. Basically, the Opium Wars. I'm saying this over and over. The Opium Wars they did against the Chinese, where they went in there and physically forced them to buy opium to get the population hooked, to weaken the country, to control them and exploit them as a market. We all know the CIA went into the black community and introduced crack cocaine, and then the military, the prison population grew. You know, I kind of hate that people always say the military industrial complex. Like people profit from that. Well, they take tax money and like small towns profit, and then those small towns don't want to lose those jobs. I mean, there's a whole thing with New York State and then New York City. New York City, systemically, they take voting power against black people. And then the more rural white areas up in upstate New York vote for harsher drug laws. And then it gives people prison jobs upstate. And that's kind of the military industrial complex. It's where rural voters with more power have the, push for laws to keep their jobs. And I think that is part of the motive. But I actually think Comrade Joey Villarreal, the Chicano nationalist, I have his book. I think it's Chicano Power. And when I interviewed him, he said, it's not really that they're making money off of it. It's just like the military itself. You got the military industrial complex as well, but it's also not really about those profiting. Those profiting are a complex, and they push for more war, but that's not really why they have the wars or the prisons. The reason why they have the wars and the prisons is because this is the imperialist system enacting violence to maintain the imperialist system. The primary reason why they have the wars is to keep those countries from developing and to keep them subservient and dependent. It's violence to keep people in their place within the imperialist hegemonic system. Just like that's their imperialist wars. And these are imperialist prisons. It's the same economic political system that declares war on the oppressed colonies within and the workers within, as it does destroying and invading other people's countries. It's like a pyramid system with a few people on top who enact violence to maintain that global order. War abroad, massive mass imprisonment here, particularly against Chicano and black community. But this song that I'm referring to is how what they started to do against the black population and Chicano population, Raza population in recent years has come to rural America, largely whiter America. And the oppressed nation, I believe the oppressed nation, or at least the oppressed region of Appalachia, was one of the first places you saw this, the opioid crisis, throughout rural America, methamphetamines. That's what they're talking about. As they deindustrialize, as they get rid of the coal mines, as they get rid of any manufacturing they had, it pushes working class people into the lumpen proletariat. They started cooking for a habit. Now there's money for the rent and things. I mean, this is obvious. He's describing the lumpenization of Appalachian workers. I thought it's also an interesting line. Times they change and never coming back again. I mean, this is there's so much depth and insight right here. It's just like poetry that's from underground working class musicians. And if you have a Marxist analysis on it, you can really kind of get into why this is happening. You know, globalization was made possible because of the microprocessor revolution. Made global shipping systems possible. And then also it made more automation on the lines. And a lot of the automation, when they rebuilt the factories, they didn't really rebuild for the microprocessor in the US. The factories overseas are usually especially in China, highly mechanized, highly automated. They were built, more recently. I mean, our stuff over here is falling apart. If you listen to that, I recommend people get on there with Red Scare. I did an interview with him. He was talking about they were building auto parts somewhere up in the Midwest, I think Ohio. And he said the stuff said made in Detroit on it, like it was from the 60s or 70s. His equipment is like over 50 years old. The safety standards are so bad, people are losing fingers. We're being forced into the lumpen proletariat and dangerous working conditions, and then further automation. Recently, this Uber, Lyft, destroying what was stable taxi jobs, forcing them into the gig economy. And I'm a delivery truck driver, and now we got I've been delivering groceries. I work for a grocery delivery service, candy, cigarettes, stuff like that. And, it's an old money company. It's interesting. It has an old money. I won't say the name of it. It has an old money company. It was the name on it. They changed it as some, new business, but they continued to rent out. The property was still owned by the big old money company, old money name. Was still owned by them. So it was like these new business collectives paying rent to the old aristocrats, something like like the Carnegies. I'd add one of them really rich old family names on it. But anyways, but it's decent pay with benefits. But now you got people aren't even going to go to gas stations anymore. Gas stations are being replaced by these GoPuffs. These delivery companies are just like a warehouse, and then gig workers deliver from the warehouse directly to people's houses. You don't even need the store anymore. That is the consequences of everyone holding a supercomputer to be able to at will tell the corporations and what they want, and have gig workers, low paid, no benefit gig workers, bring it right to them. And it's really taken off. It's a matter of time before these companies, which become like monopolies, whichever one wins out. Like Amazon is a huge. What if Amazon was to buy GoPuff, and then Amazon's warehouses could now be, could be delivered directly on call? They already got delivered. I mean, it just this pure centralization of it, the absolute power of the capitalist, and our dwindling power. In a socialist society, What would technology that would empower the lives of the people and make things better for the people doesn't in a capitalist society. Technology just empowers the capitalists to further exploit us, empowers our enemy to further rip us off. Matt Cedillo did his study today, and he talked about the cotton gin, how the cotton gin was supposed to do, technology is supposed to make things better, make our lives easier. But the cotton gin made cotton more popular, which was slavery based, and made the slave system more viable. So technology in that point helped preserve and maintain slavery for a little bit longer. If y'all, so what we could talk a little bit about the lumpen proletariat, and I've heard different. I don't really have an emphasis. I mean, my emphasis on the proletariat. If we're gonna organize people, I don't think we should organize, bourgeois intellectuals. I think we should organize workers. But the distinction between proletariat and worker, I don't really have an emphasis on that. I think we should stay away from the labor aristocracy and focus on the proletariat. Now, whether that proletariat is lumpen or traditional proletariat is non-consequence to me. But I see a lot of groups that would say we should focus on the lumpen. I think RCP was about that. My comrade Villarreal, who was radicalized in prison, he says we should focus on the lumpen. I got other comrades. I might not be understanding this right. I think Revolution Review Revolution, dude out of Utah. I don't remember his name, but I recently saw on his show that he agreed with Marx where they described the proletariat as the criminal element. And I mean, the lumpen proletariat is the criminal element, and that's kind of the case, but people are forced into that. And people say, well, the lumpen can be used by the capitalist against the working class because they're in a bad situation. And I see that happening. I can see that happening. But I mean, you also see labor bureaucracy, being bought off. They already have money and they get bought off. What brings history forward is contradictions within that, things that are unable to exist, and they struggle with the system and try to change it. Now, whether it's the traditional proletariat or the lumpen, I don't know. I don't know what the emphasis should be, but I'm not gonna discount the lumpen like some of the other comrades do. But I do see a lot of people being pushed into that, like these folks, like this guy describing folks in Appalachia. There's an interesting movie called The Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia, and it talks about the white family, which is a group of, it's an Appalachian family, and they have a famous tap dancer who became like, who would tap dance. It was like hillbilly tap dance, and it just really quick pace tap dancing that was very beautiful. And he would dance for all these big country stars. And Hank III, which was Hank Williams' grandson, started playing with him. He's more underground country as well. And the whole Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia is the whole praising of this Appalachian lumpen proletariat family that kind of never has a job but always got money because they're selling pills. Now, obviously, selling pills is poisoning your own community. It's bad. What you're physically doing is horrible. But people are forced in these positions and they have to make money. I mean, you got telemarketers I mean, even in the traditional economy, think about all the jobs people do that are ripping off their own people. Salespeople, like at like the really grungy places. Think about like these Rent-A-Center places where they charge people 2 or 3 times what something's worth, and then when people can't pay it off, um, they repo it and then sell it again. Um, and then like the medical industry, if you work, I mean, what about these pharma reps and stuff? I mean, these people are doing horrible things to their own people. I mean, I mean, there's above ground people in capitalism whose jobs in capitalism to get by are doing far worse things than somebody who's selling pills to try to get by, or at least supplementing their income. Now, a lot of people, well, the lumpen doesn't include people, people who are involved in criminal activity part time. They have to be in it full time, and then they're destructive. I don't know. And there's a lot of mixed families. It ain't like maybe you'll have one brother that works in the you have one, let's say you got two brothers living together. You got one brother works in a factory and the other one's a drug dealer, and they live together and kind of are kind of a collective. I mean, so would the one brother be lumpen and the other brother be working class? I mean, it's kind of mixed in. And there's also, and you get on the issue of oppressed nations. And there's obviously color prejudice, but how if you have a mixed race family, how does that exactly work? I mean, they're the same community and they're collective. It's interesting. Well, you really got to organize whole communities, and communities are international. Communities are of various classes. So this idea of like who to emphasize and why, it's complicated. I kind of really like what Matt Cedillo said the other day. You can't just say unite the people, unite the people, unite the people. You really have to like build legitimate contacts with people. I mean, you got to put the work in. Like I recommend to everybody, build a contact list. Build a list of contacts of people you think may be interested in socialism. And you have different types of contacts. Maybe you have a contact who would be involved in mass work. And then maybe you have a contact that might be interested in studying socialism. And then you follow up on these contacts and then keep notes of where you are with each of these contacts. And then if you join a collective, you continually to get each other to do this. And a socialist or Marxist local collective could just be it'd be you and maybe you and one other person could start off. If you and one other person in your local area could have a Marxist study, I mean, and just continue to do that. Maybe you get 3 people, and then maybe you can pool power, pool contacts, discuss which contacts you're doing what with, and then push towards organization, and also push towards Marxist study. I think regardless of theoretical, what our emphasis is, it's going to take us just getting out there and doing the work to make a change. And it's not really, you don't really know if your strategy is going to be correct. I mean, you should study the socialism and scientific socialism and the conditions and try to see what's correct. But it's going to be millions of people or hundreds of thousands. It's going to be millions of people trying different things to eventually see what worked in reality. I think it's going to take a lot of experimentation. This is why I call it a multi-strategic front. I mean, I definitely have a framework. My framework is the main enemy is the imperialist. We shouldn't work with forces like Bernie Sanders and the enemy because they're imperialists just working for the imperialists. We need grassroots workers' powers organization, but how to reach out to the workers and how to get them, there, how to exactly what to say, I don't know. What to say to exactly what group of folks is going to be the most revolutionary in the current period. I mean, time's going to tell. But I think it's going to take a lot of different people approaching a lot of different groups with a lot of different slogans or methods or approaches to see which one of those is going to work. And we can definitely learn from the past. And we definitely use the science to lead us forward. But it's not us as individuals that makes history. It's the masses of the people. It's the contradictions. It's the contradictions in society that push the discontented to build power, to change society. It's a changing of the classes. It's a changing from the dominant class, from the bourgeoisie to the proletariat. Just how it is, and it goes. And history goes in a spiral. It really doesn't go exactly forward. Like, it can feel like it's going back, but it's going around, but it's constantly going forward. It's just how it is. All right. Well, I've been on here 26 minutes. Shout out to Quindy. Shout out to Darian Hale. Arctic Angel. James Graham, thank you for being on here. I actually got to get some sleep. I got to be up at 2 a.m. I might just make it a short one. Also wanted to say some stuff about I'm not a fan of Richard Wolff. I've had a lot of working class people tell me, oh, Richard Wolff's great. People I wouldn't think getting socialism start watching Richard Wolff. And I think it's great. It's getting them into Marxism. But the fact that this clown, who uses Marxism for bourgeois purposes, is the voice that so many people are listening to, I think is horrible. I mean, if you look at the way he talks about Venezuela, about China, he, unlike a lot of academics, he does recognize some of the good things they've done. And he does recognize a basic system of colonialism. But he doesn't understand that third world socialist, anti-imperialist countries need like an iron lockdown to maintain their power against the outright attacks of the imperialist system. Like, this is history moving forward. The anti-imperialist countries are the antithesis to the imperialist system, and they're leading history forward. They're leading history forward through somewhat authoritarian, necessary authoritarian structures. But these so-called authoritarian structures are necessary, and they're often even more democratic than the United States because they have collective community groups that influence them. If you look in China, they have the Communist Party. The Communist Party has 90 million members with people in the countryside, with people in the cities, people in the neighborhoods, all over China that have real input on the central committees. Now, what does a rank and file member of the Democrat and Republican Party have on the fucking president here? None. Because the majority of them support, the majority of Democrats and a larger majority of the population support an end of these wars, support an ending of, support getting rid of student debt, support single payer health care, universal medicine. But we never get those things because we don't live in a democratic country. It's a lie. It's a facade. It's just they have such a brilliant media organization to keep people push, and there's such a big show, a multi-billion-dollar show to keep people believing these lies that somehow this country's democratic. And you got these poor countries who are constantly under the bombardment of the U.S. imperialist system. And they have spies within being funded by the United States to destroy them. They're being sabotaged. And they still manage to have unbelievable progress. Bolivia was the fastest growing economy in South America. Venezuela had given out millions of homes, has art collectives. China has lifted more people out of poverty than anywhere. Iran is lifting people out of poverty. Nicaragua. All these countries are the antithesis of the imperialist system. The current system is imperialist system. It's not just capitalism. It's the monopoly capitalist system. It's a stage in capitalism where concentration has become so power and wealth has become so concentrated. Y'all get where I'm coming from, man. Shout out to Matthew. Thanks for being here. You got a lot of great points. Dictatorship of the proletariat. U.S. politics, such a downer. And I also really dislike Western academics. When I was going to college, this was right around the Obama years. They invaded and destroyed the country of Libya. Gaddafi, who was, I believe, to be a socialist as well. He was irrigating the desert. He was building infrastructure. He was giving loans to the families. He was using the oil revenue to invest in the country, and was investing all over Africa. And he was destroyed by the first black president. And I had all these liberal professors say, "Oh, this isn't like Iraq. The UN is involved. This is a just sanction. This is just war." And these were the leaders of the political science department who were saying this bullshit. So you can understand my hatred towards academics. And I think regardless of Richard Wolff, he's still in with the enemy camp. The majority of academics are just capitalist bishops. And a lot of the entertainers in our society, they're all there for the reason of maintaining capitalism. If we want something that's ours, if we want something that's revolutionary, we want something that represents us, it has to come from and for the people. It has to be underground. It has to be of the people. And if it's not just one solitary figure, it has to be a movement of people, millions of people talking about socialism, organizing in their community, building power. So I would say build workers' power. Build workers' power on the road towards socialism. Socialism is the only real answer. All the other issues, national liberation, Chicana liberation through socialism, Afro-American liberation through socialism, women's liberation through socialism. All of these oppressions are another pillar holding up capitalism. And if we can unite all the disenfranchised forces to attack the system, the roots of the system, what's holding the system up, private profit and greed, and the centralization of power amongst a few banking and oil oligarchs and cartels. And once we have a bit of power, we need to push for the policies destroying the power of the monopoly capitalists. And when we destroy the power of the monopoly capitalists, we can completely destroy and overturn or dismantle the systems of national oppression, the real physical systems of why black people's buying power is that like a fifth or less of their white neighbors, is because there's a system in place, a legal system, a political system, a propaganda system of maintaining national oppression. We have the power, a united front of oppressed nations and workers coming together. We can build the power necessary to dismantle these systems, not just a few token black folks or few token poor folks in the imperialist system, but actually build the base of power within the working class and oppressed nations to overturn the system, dismantle that system, and rebuild a new system, one where we are taken into consideration. And that's socialism. All right, I got to get some sleep. As always, comrades, all power to the people.